we are now ready for Voice Chronicles by Freedom Pulse, so Freedom Pulse, take it away.
Alright. Hello everyone, I am Freedom Pulse, and this is East Chronicles Plus for PC. It is a remake of the original game Ancient East Vanished that was released back in 1987, I believe, with updated graphics, a couple changes to kind of modernize the game, so to speak. And so this run will be done on the easy setting, which is the competitive category for this game. And so without further ado, I will kind of explain how the run works as we go. However, I will be getting started in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so starting off in this game you play as Adol Kristen, who is a young adventurer in the making, so to speak, who, in his attempt to kind of make a name for himself, hears about a strange disturbance in a island kingdom called Asteria, where this kingdom has suddenly been surrounded by a gigantic vortex that is preventing most people from getting in or out of the storm sea, so to speak. And so Adol, being the brave adventurer he is, decides to sail directly into the sea, crashes his boat, gets almost killed by this. However, he lands on shore and makes a recovery, and now it is our job to figure out what's going on, try to solve why this storm sea has appeared, and why also there have been monsters that have suddenly appeared in the land as well. So starting off, we are in this town of Barbado, which will come back here once or twice, but our first kind of order of business is to get to the kind of main town of this area, Minia. And a little explanation about the combat of this game, though I'm not going to be fighting enemies for a little bit. This being one of the earlier action RPGs, they were trying to figure out what does and what doesn't work for combat. So in this game, you kind of use sort of a bumper car system, where you kill enemies literally just by running face first into them. There is a little bit of strategy behind it, though, because you have to be sure to run into enemies in a way that you actually don't run directly into the middle of their hitbox, otherwise you'll both take damage in bumping into enemies. You'll see more how that works later. However, at the moment I do not have any equipment, so I can't actually hurt any of the enemies around here, really. And so in order to change that, we are now running around to grab an item that we can sell in order to get enough money in which to buy that equipment. Normally at this point we would do a little bit of a clip that saves about 15-20 seconds here and about 30 seconds later on. However, kind of in the spirit of the marathon, I'll just go around and show the more or less intended way that you're supposed to do this, which you just run around and grab that item, the gold vase, which we'll be able to sell for a nice amount of money as soon as I do another thing. Which there are, starting off the first boss of this game, there's a couple of different routing choices that various runners make depending on how competitively they're going for world record, where the first boss, due to the way the damage formula in this game works, it's a lot of kind of technical jargon, but long story short, in order to deal a lot of damage to the boss in a kind of quick manner, you have to be level 4 with basically the second level of swords. However, there's also a way to fight that boss at just level 2 that is much faster. However, it's a much more dangerous fight. And so for the sake of the marathon, for some safety, we're going to do the slightly slower but much safer strat, which in the community is known as level 4 Genocris, whereas the more dangerous fights are level 2 and level 1 Genocris. So right here, we bought a sapphire ring from that pawn shop there, and we talked to that one-eyed man who happens to be missing a sapphire ring, and he gives us a bunch of money and some experience for it as well. So we will now be buying our first set of armor and shield as well as a sword. because in order to actually progress with the game, we do have to have one of each piece of equipment. So we have enough money that we can buy the longsword, which, as I mentioned, is the second tier of weapon that will allow us to do enough damage, or to have a high enough strength stat to do extra damage to the boss. And now we will proceed with the story by talking to this fortune teller named Sarah. And she kind of gives us some background about what's happening in the kingdom, where essentially there's this prophecy that the kingdom will be shrouded in darkness, and that a hero will come and find these 6 books, the Books of Ys, that will, upon reading them, will kind of set in motion the salvation of the land. And so we are sent on a quest to gather these 6 books and read all of them. We are now running back to Barbados, because earlier on, like I mentioned, we have to be level 4 in order to have the safer fight against the first boss. In order to do this quickly, we're doing a side quest that gives us a bunch of experience points, and that was why I went to that one town earlier and talked to that woman who tells us that her husband, Luda Gemma, has developed a habit of sleepwalking and has just completely wandered off. She has no idea where he is. So we know a doctor, and who's the person that saved us. We talked to him, we just talked to him a little bit. He doesn't really know anything about what's going on. However, if we leave this town and re-enter it, we'll find Luda Gemma's actually right here. He has managed to kind of sleepwalk into this doctor's office. However, the doctor doesn't know how to cure him. He's not sure what's going on. And so now that Luda Gemma has wandered off again, we have to go find him and rescue him from a monster that's going to conclude the quest and happens to warp us right where we need to be anyway, which works out very, very well. However, we do have a little bit of backtracking here, because where I need to go to rescue Luda Gemma is kind of back over by where that initial town was, kind of near the most northern point of the map. So if we just run around here and we kill this reject from the Blue Man group, we're able to rescue Luda Gemma. He thanks us, and we escort him back to the village, which thankfully is done automatically. Oh yeah, this game has an absolutely amazing OST. The song that plays on the field is called First Steps Towards War, and there's several other songs throughout this game and the sequel that are just absolutely phenomenal. But when we talked to Sarah, she told us that her grandmother, Jeba here, has the key to the shrine where the very first of the books is contained. So we talked to Jeba, she gives us the key to the shrine, and now we are free to go up to the shrine. Before we do that, however, we do need to kill a couple more enemies because we are just a little bit short of the level we need to be. And this is kind of showing off that bumper car thing I was talking about before, where you just have to run into enemies slightly off the center of their hitbox. And that gives us level 4. We are now good to go and fight the very first boss of the game, Genocris. Something nice about this version of the game is that you're literally allowed to save wherever you want. And so I'm going to try to save before every boss and before some of the tricky points, because even though this boss is pretty free, at this level, it can still kind of mess you up if you're not careful. So, one thing to note about this game is that when the developers were making this game, they had no idea what invincibility frames were. So if I were to stand in this fire, you can see I just take tons and tons of damage constantly. So, that fight would be really dangerous at level 1 or level 2. It would be a much slower fight. It takes 25 hits, I believe, to kill him at level 2 or level 1, whereas it only takes about 7 to kill him at level 4. However, now we have killed the gatekeeper to the shrine, and we are free to explore. We have a couple of items we need to grab here. before we actually do a little bit of sequence breaking. First off, we have to pick up this item, the prison key, along with a treasure chest key that will allow us to open every single treasure chest in the game from here on out. Which will be just up here. Okay, you're in a good spot. Something that's worthwhile to note about enemies in this game. Also, all the treasure chests in this game are like coated in oil or something, because literally you just slip and slide all over treasure chests sometimes, and there's not really anything you can do about it. However, as I was saying, enemy movement in this game, enemies are set to spawn at a certain spot every time, and if you kill them and then go off screen of their spawn point, then they will respawn. Oh, that's an example of hitting an enemy straight on, which will deal return damage to you. Again, enemies are set to spawn at a certain point after you go off screen of them. However, after that, they will then run around completely randomly until they aggro onto you, which in certain instances can actually be a really big issue, because since you have to hit enemies off of their center mass if they happen to be in a single tile wide hallway. Thank you for the luck. If you happen to be in a single tile wide hallway, then you're basically guaranteed to take return damage. So in that cell that we got the key for earlier, we find this strange girl whose name is Fina, who has completely lost her memory. All she knows is that she was suddenly captured by this strange man in a black cloak and was imprisoned there with no food and just locked in a cell with the mask of eyes that we picked up earlier. So us being the gentlemen that we are going to escort Fina out of the shrine and over to Jaba's place, which is actually perfect because we have to do this anyway at some point, and it gives us a bunch of experience for accepting and do some sequence breaking. First of all, though, I'm picking up this safety item. It's the shield ring. What it does is anytime we are outside of a boss fight, we will receive half of the damage that we would normally receive otherwise against enemies. Whoops, I accidentally did that. So we're almost to where we need to take Fina. Yeah, now we will take significantly less damage from enemies, which is good, because the area we're about to go to is very, very, very scary, even with the shield ring equipped. However, we make it back to Zepik Village, just as Fina kind of exhausts the last of her strength. So we carry her over back to Jaba's house, and are able to be on our way now. I did buy wing, right? Okay, good. That would have been bad. So now the game kind of intends us to go back into the shrine and finish it up, get the first book, and then figure out where we're supposed to go after that. However, there's nothing stopping us from just going to the second dungeon of the game now, which happens to contain a lot of really, really good equipment that will make clearing the shrine out much, much faster. I see some Toho talk. So this mine is very, very dangerous. Like, I just clinked off that enemy there. That means I actually am not strong enough to do damage to them. Perfect Cherry Blossom. I agree with you, Verakumo. That was the first Toho game I played as well. I love that game. But yeah, we can't hurt these enemies, so we just kind of have to avoid them. There we pick up the silver armor, which is the second best armor in the game. We went from literally the weakest armor to the second best. Again, very, very nice items here. And that's just the beginning of our little escapades here. So I'm going to save again because this is very, very dangerous. We cannot hurt any of the enemies on this floor, and they will kill us in about 3 hits. So we have to run through here, avoid this enemy, and grab this silver harmonica, which we will complete a quest that we haven't really accepted yet, but we might as well get it out of the way now. So again, saving very, very frequently because these enemies are very scary. And this comes into play of what I mentioned about enemies moving completely randomly. There were 2 eye enemies there that could have just completely murdered me in that hallway. Luckily, none of them actually were in my way at all, so I lucked out a lot there. Yeah, the Eyeballs of Death. Literally anyone who has run this game is well acquainted with those eyeballs and the amount of runs they can just destroy. Either way, we go to the top of this wall here, and we find Rhea, who is a traveling musician, who happens to be missing a silver harmonica that was somehow at the bottom of a monster-infested mine. That's not interesting at all. Also, she happens to look very similar to Fina. It's probably a coincidence, though. However, in that cutscene, you saw her play the silver harmonica, and it showed a cutscene of a tree. That is kind of foreshadowing that we're supposed to go visit one of the 2 giant rhoda trees that are in the area. However, I'm going to buy a wing. I forgot to mention, what wings do is they are the items that are allowing me to warp back to town. That you have to buy a new one every single time you use it, though. And this is where we would do the second clip that would save much more time. However, once again, I can more than capable of showing the intended way there, so I will do just that. And here we're running to grab from the base of the tree. There is actually a silver sword that is the second strongest sword in the game. And something important about silver is that in this series, silver is also known as Claria, which is a magical material that has holy powers, and it's the only thing that can, like, really, really destroy demons and monsters. So getting a silver weapon is very, very important. So we equip the silver sword, and now we are more than ready to absolutely destroy the rest of the shrine. Once again, we're intended to kind of do that little fetch quest for the silver sword after beating this boss, or after beating the boss of the mine. However, literally nothing stops us from doing them out of order and literally killing the next boss in 4 hits. Thinking you actually transitioned. So something else we have to do here is that there's actually several, like, in-game flags that you have to set in order to gain access to the last dungeon that involve talking to Fina and Jaba a bunch. So right there, I run into Jaba's house, talk to Fina a little bit, see that she has recovered. She still doesn't have her memory back, however, but she's recovered, and she is staying with Jaba for the time being. We will get more updates as to what's going on with her as we continue through, before we go to the last dungeon. Again, there's an example of just enemies getting into single tile wide areas and just bumping into you. I have a high enough defense that they literally do 1 damage to me at this point in time, which isn't that much of an issue. However, now that we're on this floor of the shrine, things will do more damage to us than before. However, we had to pick up that key right there because it is it is one of the 2 keys that we need in order to get to the boss of the shrine. There are several items we do need to pick up in here as we're running through. We also need to hit level 7 by the time we get to the boss. Which, since we are very, very close to hitting level 7, that's not going to be an issue at all. And we pick up the silver shield, once again, another piece of silver equipment. Buffs us up a very, very nice amount. There's level 7, and we're going to run up here and we're going to grab another safety item. This is a heal potion. What it does is when you use it, it restores you back to full health. Which, there is 1 of 2 spots in this game where we will need to use it. Hopefully I can hold on to this until the very end of the game. If not, there's a second potion I can pick up at the very end of very beginning of the last dungeon that I can then use. Since there is a grinding section upcoming that can be a little dangerous. There's the second key that we need to access the boss, and now we're just on our way to finish things up. Yeah, this game fortunately has a lot of backup items, or just a lot of really good things you can grab for backup and safety. The second game, which we'll get to, is a little bit more risky throughout the run. However, it's still nothing too terrifying. I'm going to save this before this boss because this boss is theoretically free. As I said, it takes 4 hits to kill him, like that. However, a certain runner of this game made the observation that the boss was free and then immediately died to the boss. So, you know, you can never be too safe. Shoutouts to TuxDev, by the way. We love you. So we will, now that we have the first book, we'll be, of course, buying our wing again and buying this item, which is a mirror that we will use later. And I got Johann. The TuxDev special, indeed. So, also, we talked to this old man here. We go back to tell Sarah, hey, we found the book, but it turns out Sarah actually got murdered by the man in a black cloak. He was looking for the second book and ended up killing her. May she rest in peace. However, because of that, she did keep the book safe from the man, so we now have the second book, and we are told that the third book is in the mines, which we happen to know a thing or two about the mines now. Let's see, did I forget something? Yes, we have to now go back into the mines to get the third book of Ys. We also are going to be grinding while we're here. The way levels work in this game specifically are kind of weird, where you do have a level up system, as has been made very clear. However, the game has a maximum of, you max out at level 10. At that point, your strength stat, or all of your stats, are as high as they're going to be. And we're going to be hitting level 10 at about the halfway point in this game, which we're going to grind for that now. However, I'm not just arbitrarily being like, oh, I'm going to get max level now. The game actually requires you to be max level, or to be level 10 and have the silver sword in order to beat the boss of this next dungeon. So we'll literally be going through half the game at max level for some reason. However, before we grind, we need to grab another item that is the key to get to the aforementioned boss fight. Also, these knights are bullies. We get the Dharm key. Again, opens the door to the boss fight once we have concluded our grind. And I might have to use the potion, which is a good thing I have the potion, and I know where back it is. So we will be grinding on this enemy, and luckily this one was not MIA, on these two Mantis enemies. So I'm in position now. Yeah, arbitrary requirements, right? So there's these two Mantis enemies that respawn just in basically a vertical line from each other. And they give the most experience of any enemy at this point, so they are really the best option in order to grind. However, when I mentioned earlier, the enemy movement is completely random until they are locked onto you. This is where it comes into play. Oh yeah, I am the next runner, don't worry. Yeah, the enemies, once they spawn, they will just kind of run wherever they want to, which can get kind of obnoxious at times, because they'll just go in completely different places that you don't want them to be, and it will make the grind take longer. It can also play into our favor, though. Sometimes you will have an enemy from one of the Mantis or just south, and sometimes they'll just happen to kind of wander into this area, and you can kill them for a little bit of extra experience that makes the grind just go a little faster. It's not something we really expect or count on at all when we do runs, because it is so infrequent. You'll get one or two extra enemies maybe every 2 or 3 runs. I've gone almost 10 runs before without seeing a single extra enemy spawn. So then you'll have a run where you get like 3 or 4 that just makes your grind go way faster. It's very inconsistent. Again, something we don't really count on, but if it happens, it's very, very nice because it can reduce the amount of running back and forth that we have to do at this point. So I probably have, like... That's when you remember to split... Yeah. Don't worry, there is... This one I just have named Level 10 Grind. Trust me, if you want to see some RNG, just wait until you see the next boss. Because let me tell you about RNG. And our good friend, Vagulian... Finish getting her over here. Just for a little bit of... actually, it was a little... I'm gonna have to kill more of these knights than I thought because I'm a little behind on experience. Actually, I need to kill one more, but... yeah, I need to kill one more. I miscalculated my experience just a tiny bit. It's fine, though. If I can get you to spawn again. There we go. We're good. Alright, so I'm level 10 now. So, text, I've never seen this. You feed sometimes gets like half speed and catches. That's weird. Not sure. So this is Vagulian. He is a jerk. Literally everyone in the community hates his guts. And I think you can kind of see why. Splice run, yeah. You know, splicing in a live marathon. That's how I roll. So, Vagulian here is actually being very nice, surprisingly. So, when he turns into a cloud of bats, okay, what is actually this RNG? He can do what he did just there, where he turns in, where he, like, gets really, really close and spins around like that. And, he'll just do that, and he can do that up to 3 times per cycle. We call it a fake, or a troll cycle. And every time he does that, it wastes about 7 seconds. So, my PB has literally about 40 seconds of time save to this boss that I literally can't do anything about. And fun fact, that was actually a gold split. I went from being a minute behind to being over 30 seconds ahead of my PB, even with the marathon strats. So, yeah, that's Vagulian, and that is why we hate him. I also don't need to buy a wing. This is... it might be PB pace. We'll see. It would definitely be on PB pace if I did the clips, but I don't really care enough to... but it's fine. I made the decision not to do the clips, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Oops, I need to go this way. Imagine if it PBs without clips. That will mean that the 5th place time on the leaderboards doesn't have clips in it. It also is on a level Genocris route, which is verified to be at least a minute and a half, 2 minutes slower than level 2. So that would be kind of ridiculous. So we here have... we tell Jeba that her granddaughter got murdered. And she also, you know, of course laments that fact. But she also tells us that she is able to read the books of Ys because they're in an ancient language that literally no one can read. And, what? That was weird. They're in a language no one can read except her. So she reads us the books. We also go and we visit Fina right there, and she explains she still doesn't remember who she is, and that kind of bothers her, as it would. However, that is another flag we need to set. We have one more flag where we have to talk to Fina here, and then talk to Jeba one more time, and she will tell us that the last 3 books that we need to collect are in the tower, the Dharm Tower, which is this gigantic 25-floor tower that we will be spending the next 30 minutes or the next, 20 minutes of the game on. So we will make our way over here to Jaba's son, Gobin, who is a thief, or leader of this Thieves Guild. There's this whole side story with the Thieves Guild where basically someone is going around stealing silver, because as I said, it's this magical material that can destroy monsters. And everyone blames the thieves because they're like, oh, well, they're thieves, they steal things, right? However, they are not the culprits. It's actually the man in black, because he's wearing armor that protects him from any weapon that is not made of silver. So, however, we do have a silver weapon, so that means we can defeat the man in the black coat. Also, we have to pick up this evil ring. Here's where we pick up the extra heal potion and the mirror if we forgot to buy it. However, since I have both items already, I don't need to. And the song that plays here is called Tower of the Shadow of Death. I would highly recommend listening to it. It is an amazing song. I'm going the wrong way. It is an absolutely amazing song. It's actually the song that made me want to speedrun this game, because when I played through this the first time, I was having it, I was enjoying the game. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a pretty good game, you can definitely tell it's an RPG from, the 80s. But I was having a pretty good time, and then the second I entered into the tower and I heard the cello introduction to this song, I was instantly like, alright, I love this game, I want to see if I can speedrun it. Yeah, it is a bit of a shame. I mean, the songs that play earlier are also awesome, but yeah, this song is only in, a chunk of this game, because once we get higher up in the tower, we will hear different songs. But for this first part, we just have this absolute banger. However, our progress in this tower will be stunted. We happened to fall into a trap, and we had all of our silver equipment stolen. We also found out that Luda Gemma has sleptwalked into the tower somehow. But not sure how that happened, but it did. And we're just stuck in this cell, so we just kind of wait around. This is really the only input break of the run, until we get rescued by this guy, Dogi, who Goban mentions that one of his best men was in the tower. This is him. But he rescues us, and he's like, hey, by the way, there's one more person in this tower. He's this old guy that's been using this idol to kind of evade the monsters here. You should give it back to him, because he lost it. The idol doesn't actually do anything for us, though, so we're just going to give it back to him. And yeah, he is the Kool-Aid man. He is Dogi, the destroyer of walls. All the walls in the world fear him. But we use the Mask of Eyes we picked up one more time here in order to find Raba, who likes to talk a lot. He talks more than literally anyone else in this game. This is about 20 seconds of him just talking. In the Japanese version of the game, the Japanese version of this game literally saves about 5 seconds there, just because Raba literally talks that much. It's ridiculous. But either way, he gives us a blue necklace. And the blue necklace is an item that protects us from the curses from basically dark traps, dark curses, etc. And equipping the blue necklace means we are past that trap. You can choose to fall into the trap multiple times, and there's actually a Steam achievement for doing it 3 times, because Dogi has to rescue you every single time. However, that's really slow, because that sends us back to the bottom, so we are not going to do that. And we have made it past the trap, and can continue onward. However, we are a little naked at the moment. We have no equipment, and that's not going to change a whole lot. We do have to pick up the silver sword in order to beat the final boss, and we will be picking up one additional piece of armor that will assist us in beating, that will make one of the later fights a lot safer. However, other than that, we are not going to be getting any of our silver equipment back. You are required to have it in order to get into the dungeon, and then we just kind of leave it in the dungeon. But we are almost on our way to the first boss of the tower, Pictomos. And we will be seeing him in about 20 seconds, if that. And I'm going to save because I have lost runs to him, and he's scary. So the way this boss works, he's a giant mantis thing. Okay, I mistimed that. He throws 3 scythe blades out, and then he has to wait to throw more blades until the last blade comes back. So what you do is you count to 3, which I know that's challenging sometimes, and you just keep attacking him until he gets his scythe blade stack. That was also a pretty bad fight overall, but it wasn't awful. Yes, that is correct, Dragon. There is one that if you get Fina to level 2, it involves using the mirror to freeze enemies and putting an enemy between you and her, and she just keeps bumping into the enemy. Once she kills one enemy, she hits level 2. So we have acquired the 4th book. We also got a hammer, which is not a weapon. Although it'd be pretty cool to be running around murdering things with a sledgehammer. Adol doesn't really have that kind of approach to things. However, it will be important to solve a puzzle. And that puzzle is actually up here on this next floor. So if we were to go down from here, we would be walled by an area called the Devil's Corridor. That basically is a gigantic room filled with pipe organs that played music that's so demented it actually drives the living insane until they die. Which is actually probably the most metal thing in this game. However, the pipes that give air to the organ are inside the columns, and by smashing one of them with the hammer, we are able to deactivate the Devil's Corridor and proceed onward without dying. Which is usually preferable to proceeding on with dying, so, you know. This floor is what I like to call the useless floor, because it is completely empty. There are no enemies, there are no treasures or anything, it's literally just there. And we have to go through that floor like 3 times. Also, Ghost Kumo in chat, this is his favorite song in the game, or one of them. It's called Dreaming, and it is also an absolutely amazing song. In the speedrun, you don't get to hear it very much because it only plays in a couple of puzzle floors, and since we know the solutions of the puzzle, we don't get stuck there at all. So this next boss fight is Consklard. He is, you want to know how to beat this boss? Literally run in a circle and pray. That was actually a really good fight. Yeah, that was the fight. That was what the game... And for doing it, we get the 5th Book of Ys, along with a rod, which will allow us to use the teleportation mirrors that were on the previous floor. The funny thing is that I make fun of that boss. However, he's actually the most challenging boss in the game on the hardest difficulty setting. Because he does a lot more damage to you than you do to it, so you have to actually be really careful. So here we have a mirror maze. And we had a mirror maze. That is actually pretty complicated. Casually, and even like learning the run, that's one of the more complicated parts of the tower to learn. However, it's not... Once you memorize it, it's not that big of a deal. So we're going to go a little out of our way here to pick up a battle shield, which is the one piece of armor we'll be equipping for the rest of the game. That was actually a really good enemy movement there. I stand corrected. So we pick up that shield, it will make the next boss a lot safer, and it will make the final boss just a tiny bit safer. However, we saw Raba there in that floor with the mirror maze, and if you talk to him, he'll talk your ear off again by saying that there is a girl here in this little annex that has been captured, and we should probably go rescue her. So we go over here. Welcome to the only isometric room in the entire game. And we will now equip the Battle Shield and also the Evil Ring. Because this giant scary looking door here is trapped so that it will be... no one who is basically not pure evil will be able to open the door. However, by equipping the Evil Ring, we're able to open the door. Right there, we found Rhea, who has been captured, and she's like, oh, by the way, I got captured on purpose because I need to give you this monocle because it teaches you how to read. So we're now able to read the Books of Ys, which is good because we don't have Jabel with us to read to us. So now that we have those, we have to do one last thing before we can go to the final boss rush. And that is backtracking all the way back to where I broke the Devil's Corridor. Because our good friend Ludogema is actually kind of over there. And he got stabbed, which is unfortunate, I'm sure. But he is alive, and he has an item that we need in order to access the final boss. And nowhere in the game does it tell you this, fun fact. So, playing through this game casually, I was able to get through the entire game without using guides, except for this backtracking section right here. Because, again, the game doesn't tell you at any point, I'm pretty sure, about this item. You just need to know that after you rescue Rhea, and she gives you the monocle, that you have to go all the way back to floor 11 in order to talk to Ludogema after reading books 4 and 5. And then he'll give you an item that you need to get to the final boss. So here we are, we equip the monocle, and we are able to read the yellow book, which is the Book of Mesa, and the green book, which happens to be the Book of Gemma, which is coincidentally the last name of our good friend here. Raba hints at it after failing to open the door at the top of the Oh, so yeah, you literally have to go all the way to the top, and then, yeah. So that's a bit of a pain in the butt. I need a mirror. How much until time? We have about 4 minutes. I'll let you know when that's coming up. Oops. So now that we have the blue amulet, which is the item we need to open the door to the final boss, we can now go and take on the last 2 bosses of this game once we finish climbing the tower. Yeah, so we talked to Ludogema there, and he is like, oh, that book is a family heirloom that mysteriously went missing one day. Here's this other family heirloom that will probably be helpful, and it just so happens to be the key to the final boss, so, you know, I guess it's helpful. Oops. Hope the next runner is ready. Yeah, I don't know, he might need a minute. Also, something I didn't mention is we find out that the Man in Black is a guy named Dark Fact, as in, like, you know, fact or fiction. Yeah, just the word dark in front of that. Also, this area is commonly known as Scorpion Alley, because there's a lot of these scorpion enemies that will ruin your day if you don't use a mirror to freeze them in place and break through them, which is why we bought the mirror earlier. Yeah, so this guy, Dark Fiction, Dark Opinion, Dark Fact, has, basically he's a descendant of one of the 6 sages who wrote the books, and he one day just went super evil and decided he wants to destroy the world, so he has gone on this whole campaign to do so. And we have to stop him, because he happens to have the last book. Whoops. So he is an evil librarian, yes. We'll go with that. Also, those enemies are kind of a pain in the butt, but we need to get past them in order to get this item, the Flame Sword, which is the strongest sword in the game, which is really nice. However, strongest sword in the game, silver, it doesn't hurt the final boss, or it hurts the final boss, but not enough to actually kill him. However, we do need it to beat the next boss, which is kind of weird. It's something to actually fix in the next game. However, we have this last floor to go through, and then I will be using the heal potion I picked up earlier. We have a last little mirror maze here that's actually easier than the first one. And I will be running around here. I don't really care about taking damage because I'm about to heal it right now. And making my last safety save, well, second to last safety save. And it's time to fight Yoglix and Emulgan, or as he is known in the community, Yogurt and Omelet, because that's a lot easier to say. And apparently we were really hungry when we were thinking up nicknames for these bosses. However, that's Yoglix and Emulgan. Done and done. That's the second to last boss. We are now ready to go and face Dark Fact. By the way, this is the door that is locked normally. So time will be coming up not after I beat the final boss, but there will be a book I have to grab and then read, and it'll be after I close the text box, after reading the book. Just so you know. But that will be coming up in about 30 seconds. So this is Dark Fact. I forgot to do a thing. That's why you save before the final boss, because like I said, you can't actually hurt him with the battle sword, or the fire sword. However, now that we have the sword equipped, we can now hurt him, sort of. So this boss fight will either go okay, cool, we beat him. Sometimes it takes like 5 or 6 tries to beat him for no reason. So time will be in a couple seconds. So get ready on it. So that's the last book, and we read it, and that's time.
Alright, GG, that was 46-12.
Nice.
Is that a PB? Please say yes.
No.
Kappa.
No, my PB is a 42. My PB is a 42.
Aw. Did I miss something? Because you were ahead by like 4 minutes.
I forgot I'm running against my average splits, not my PB. So.
I see.
I still did gold on the Vagulian fight though. Yeah, that was
that's pretty good.
That was a decent fight. I was afraid I was gonna die there. If I do the fight right, I can beat the fight in like 4 seconds. I messed up some of the frames, but
yeah, definitely drop. Just we need to go on, since board splitting purposes be updating everything and stuff. So we'll get you ready for the next one, because we have more Wise Chronicles coming up. I probably mispronounced the Wise there. I can't.
It's East.
I can't pronounce that.
But yeah.
Yeast. It's yeast. Oh,
I was you don't say the Y, it's just East.
Oh man. We'll get that set up soon.
Awesome. Yeah, and I have to take like a bathroom break before we continue.
Alright, perfect. So everything's working out.
Awesome, awesome.
So see ya for round 2.
Yeah.
Alright, we're pretty much almost already again ready to go. That's the benefit of having a block run by the same runner. But runner needs to, you know, so you gotta take breaks sometimes. So runner's currently on a very quick bathroom break. But in the meantime, I would like to remind everyone what we're actually running here for. We're running for Go Rescue, which is a pet adoption center in Virginia Beach. And it's not one of these like big kind of like, you know, like big overarching like institute. It's just one small shelter in Virginia Beach, so we do appreciate like all the help that they get, and all your money is definitely going, like, you know, to a like every dollar is actually going to a place where it counts. So, you know, that's amazing. That's what I love about this cause. So if you do want to support that, if you do like to see dogs get a new home and everything, then you can type !donate in the chat. And you can also contribute to a lot of our incentives. So if you'd like to, let me just get it. Let me just see, because you know, bad restreamer. Let's actually see what the next incentive would be, because we do have a bid war coming up later today. We do have a bid war for the character in Sonic Blast Mine 2 coming up. So if you do want, you know, if you want to like change, you know, select the character for that game. If you want Linka Meister to play either Sonic Blastman or Sonia, then you could contribute to that. Or you could also, again, change Linka's Bram Stoker Dracula run to hard difficulty. So, you know, some incentives to be met there. But Sloa likes to call it selling out, so that's enough selling out for today. And we're just waiting on Freedom Pulse to get back here, and then we'll get you Weiss Chronicles 2. Weiss. Oh my god, I cannot pronounce that word. Alright.